Thank you. So we're gonna, this one works now. We're gonna let you start off with a minute to then introduce yourself to everyone. Yes.
Hey everyone, how are you guys doing tonight? Doing well? Alive in here? It's been eventful so far. My name is Derrick Broze. I'm 34 years old. I've been in Houston my entire life. For the last 10 years, I've dedicated my life to activism. I'm a freelance investigative journalist. I have a show on KPFT, 90.1 KPFT. I've worked with all kinds of community groups and focused on exposing corruption in the city, exposing both governmental corruption and corporate corruption, locally, nationally, internationally. Been to Standing Rock, Ferguson, you name it, I was there documenting or participating in it. I also come from, a really different background. 15 years ago, I was addicted to crystal meth, went to prison, went into the system through the drug war, totally changed my life, and started on the path I'm on now. We're going to talk more about that tonight, but I just wanted to give you a little bit about who I am. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Alright, so we're going to start off with a lightning round. So for each one of these questions, we just want a quick yes or no.
I'll stick to yes or no, I promise.
I so appreciate that. And then at the end, we'll give you a minute to kind of expand on any one of the answers you gave us. Okay, so the first one. In 2015, the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance was placed on the ballot for a public vote. Did you vote to repeal the ordinance?
No.
If elected, will you direct your administration to begin drafting a new non-discrimination ordinance that covers LGBTQ+ people in public and private employment, housing, and public accommodations, and place it on the council agenda?
No.
Recently, the city of Wascom, Texas declared itself a sanctuary city for the unborn by passing a resolution banning most abortion procedures. Will you pledge, if you are elected mayor, that you will not follow that path and that you will support access to constitutionally protected reproductive health care?
Yes.
As mayor, will you support increased funding for HIV/AIDS in the city of Houston?
Yes.
As mayor, will you ensure that transgender city employees keep access to health care through their city insurance policies?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and get you a minute to kind of expand on that.
Yeah, sure. And if you don't mind if I stand again, I feel more comfortable this way. So the reason I said no about the Equal Rights Ordinance is not because I believe in discrimination or I discriminate against people in my life, but honestly, when I look at this movement particularly, the LGBTQ movement, and I think about the origins of this movement, why do we celebrate Pride Month? Where did this start from? Anybody? It started with a riot. It started with the people changing. It started with people pushing on the ground level and pushing to get the respect they deserve and the rights they deserve as free, beautiful, powerful human beings. The way it works and the way I've seen it in history is the government's always behind. They're always behind the cultural change that we're pushing, whether we're talking about pushing for civil rights in the black communities with Martin Luther King leading the way, or something like a riot pushing the way. I think that really the strongest way for us to establish equality, whether that's in this community or any community in Houston, is to build it from the ground level. And that's why I've always taken the activist approach. Not necessarily looking, I'll be honest with you guys, this is the one time I'm running. I don't plan on ever running again. I've voted one time in my life, and it wasn't in the city of Houston.
All right, so that's time.
So I want you to understand, I don't care about discrimination. I care about building from the ground up as opposed to thinking a government ordinance is going to get rid of bigots. Because it won't.
Alright, we're going to go into the short answer portion. And easy, painless. Just tell us about a time that you supported an LGBTQ person in your life, either personally, professionally, both.
So, there was the last couple of years I've spent a lot of time outside of Houston, traveling, doing speaking, and just engaging with community members around the country who are involved in all kinds of activism. And a good friend of mine, I won't name her by name, but she's in Florida, and we've got connected over the last couple of years. She's not only involved with LGBTQ causes, but also prisoners' rights and things of that sort. Particularly, she kind of educated me to groups like the Redneck Revolt, which is like LGBTQ groups that care about gun rights. What do you think about that intersection? Kind of an interesting intersection. But I just think for me, I'm going to work with anybody. When I meet somebody, I typically don't assume their gender or assume what they identify. I just treat them like a human being one way or the other. And that's just the approach that I was raised with.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Nearly 25% of all homeless youth in the Houston region identify as LGBTQ+. LGBTQ plus youth are at a higher risk of homelessness, in part because of family rejection or aging out of the foster care system. How would you address this crisis and tailor a response that specifically addresses issues that LGBTQ plus homeless youth face?
So I think the solution to most problems, I would say, and this is not just political, but human relationships, is always going to be communication and getting to know community members. This is why, way before this campaign and even throughout this campaign, I've participated and been involved with groups like Food Not Bombs and working with other groups who advocate for those on the streets. And like you said, the population is pretty, it's pretty substantial of LGBTQ members who are on the streets. We were just downtown feeding the homeless a couple weeks ago. There's a 16-year-old girl on the streets, trying to survive, getting taken in by some older guy. These things are happening every day in our city. That leads to human trafficking. That leads to all kinds of other places. I think the answer is we need to have, if we're going to have elected leaders, they should be the ones who are down there working with the homeless. They shouldn't be passing ordinances, for example, that criminalize homelessness or attack people and criminalize people who want to help the homeless. So I think the answer is to engage, to come together, and to communicate with those who are on the streets. I mean, how else can you know what they go through but talking to them? It seems kind of common sense to me.
So, the city of Houston has 18 sister cities around the world. Of those, at least 5 are in countries where being LGBTQ+ is currently illegal, or where LGBTQ+ people face threats of harassment, physical violence, even death, for simply being who they are or loving who they love. In your opinion, does the mayor of Houston play a role in promoting civil rights around the world, particularly as the face of our city on trade missions to countries that may still criminalize and abuse LGBTQ+ people?
Absolutely, I think that should be the role of a mayor. Now, one thing I want to say about this, I just want to say thank you guys, because I've heard you ask this question several times tonight, and I think this is important. When you look at my campaign, there's 9 main issues that we're focused on, and each of those issues apply to Houstonians, but they also are bigger issues that are national and international issues. And I'm trying to ask myself, what can we do about these problems on the local level? I'm not interested in waiting for the state or the federal government to take, to look for a solution. I want us to do it.
Right.
And when it comes to what our partners, our trade partners are involved in, I think we should judge people by not only by the fruit of their actions, but the company they keep. So how can we celebrate Houston as a beautiful place of diversity, or say all these great things about Houston, if the mayor, any mayor, current mayor, former mayor, wants to welcome, for example, in the last year, officials from Saudi Arabia, where they still crucify people, where they behead 16-year-old kids. Let's just look it up, especially LGBTQ members. Women just got the right to drive in Saudi Arabia. About 6 months ago, there was a Saudi official welcomed into the city by the mayor's office, I think these things do matter. And so I, as a mayor, not only with this issue, but all the issues, would refuse to do business with any person, individual, country, organization, business that is responsible for human rights violations, environmental disasters. It's part of a plan that we're calling Vote With Your Dollar, and I'd love to tell you guys more about it later on.
All right. This year, 24 people have died in custody of Immigration Customs Enforcement, including a transgender woman in June. The mayor is often the loudest voice representing Houston and has a moral responsibility to be a voice for their community. How will you use that voice to support and defend asylum seekers and undocumented Houstonians?
I'll be out there on Emancipation Street with you every week. That's what I'll do. I'll be out there every week protesting. I'll be out there saying, we're not going to allow these kind of things in our city, because, I think, honestly, left, right, whatever, put all the politics aside, and you just think at the most basic level that whatever the infraction may be, you came here with the improper paperwork, you didn't wait in the right line, or you crossed across an imaginary border on the map, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, if our answer to that is to criminalize people, to lock people away. Now, I'm not saying that we should just, let people do whatever they want, but at the end of the day, the solution shouldn't be to criminalize and separate families especially, and it definitely shouldn't be to be putting children in cages. We know the recent reports are showing they're without medical supplies, they're sleeping on these aluminum foil things. It's ridiculous with the conditions. So, like I said, just like I was there 2 weeks ago, and I'll be at the upcoming one, I'd be out there with you as a mayor, putting my foot down and my voice out there, just like we all should be.
So,
My name's Derrick Broze.
the last question, and the longest one, probably the one that most folks are really interested in, is why are you the best person to represent the interests of the LGBTQ community? Given Houston's huge, we have a large LGBTQ community, In Texas, in the United States, LGBTQ people don't have protections unless they live in a state that specifically grants them protections. To have secure housing, to have secure employment, I think two basic tenets and factors of what a successful person that has security, that has a foundation needs. So how are you setting yourself apart in your leadership?
Awesome. Is that my count? I got 5 minutes? Cool, let's do this. All right, we got 5 minutes together, hopefully some more, but make sure I leave you with something worth remembering. All right, so why am I the best served, to be in this position? I don't know that I'm the best served depending on your qualifications. If your qualifications are, am I a self-funded millionaire, then I'm not the best. If your qualifications are, am I a career politician, then I'm not the best. If your qualifications are that I do backroom deals in city council and city hall every week, well then I'm not the best. But if you're looking for somebody who has spent time on the streets, who has spent time behind bars, who has been addicted to drugs, and who I consider would be an average person, especially as we see how big these issues affect. Like, for example, the drug war affects the LGBT community huge. I don't know how many of you have been in the Harris County Jail, but I've been in there and seen it. LGBTQ members, trans members going to the Harris County Jail. It's even worse than it is if you're just a straight person. When you go through there with that, not only are you going to get treatment by the guards and by the people there, but the whole thing is it's just screwed up. So my point is that the reason I think that I'm better suited than anybody else in this race is because I'm talking about issues that nobody else is talking about. Tonight we're talking specifically about the community that you're involved with, and I think that every single issue, all the 9 different issues that I'm focused on, including decriminalizing cannabis, ending the drug war in Houston, welcoming cannabis businesses to the city, freeing the weed, also ending no-knock raids. I don't know if you guys heard, but there were 2 Houston family members here, Houstonians, that were murdered by HPD in January. Their murder is still we're waiting to find out the truth. Ending no-knock raids, ending police surveillance, building more community farms, urban gardens, food forests around the city, planting hemp along the bayou to help with reducing the flood, and turning the Petro Metro into Hemp Houston. And along with that, we want to put all of these things up to a vote. I also want to put a moratorium on the controversial 5G rollout, which more and more people are questioning for privacy and health reasons. And every one of these issues affect you, no matter what your skin color is, no matter what your sexual orientation is, no matter who you love, who you lay down with at night. All of these issues affect us as Houstonians. And once again, every one of the issues that can be found on my website can be found on our material. I am the only one raising. In fact, some of the other candidates are reaching out to us to try to get educated because they're realizing that people are starting to ask questions about these issues. I'm also the only one standing in defense of medical and health freedom and saying that I would never support any attempt to issue a mandatory vaccination order by the city of Houston. And that's just because I believe in freedom. I believe that your body, your choice. And I believe that across the board, whether that applies to cannabis, whether that applies to health, whether that applies to who you love and who you treat. Your body, your choice, bodily autonomy, self-ownership. That is the key, the central component of my campaign. I believe you own yourself, you are a free, beautiful, powerful human being, and the state, whether that's federal government, state government, or local government, should have no say in your personal affairs or business. And that means who you love, what you put in your body, and those things, all those things. And I know that across the board. So I'm asking you guys to look into our campaign because, as I said, we're starting to break through some of the local media blockade. We were on Channel 2 this morning. That'll be out on Sunday. But for the most part, they keep telling you there's 4 candidates that are running. There's 4 candidates: Miss Lavelle, Busby, Turner, and Bill King, who ran out here pretty quickly. So those 4 are the ones they're telling you about. But you're hearing from some other people, including myself. And I invite you to check everybody out. Check out Demetria. Check out the other candidates, because there are more people in this race than the media and some of the local politicians would like you to know. The only reason I'm doing this is because I'm here to expose corruption, to get people to realize that this city is just as corrupt as the federal government. If you're worried about Donald Trump, if you're worried about the federal government, look in your own backyard, because they're just as corrupt. That's what the Broze for Mayor campaign is about. We're here to expose corruption. We're here to amplify the voice of Houstonians. I could never speak for you, but I would love to be an amplifier to help get your concerns out there. I'm going to be in 8 more of the upcoming debates, and we're going to be in this till the very end. We were one of the first ones to file on the very first day, so we're already official. Some of those who are running right now can't say that, and I don't plan on going anywhere. So I invite you guys to check out DerrickBroze.com. Thank you.